What is happening, everybody? If you're tuning in with me tonight, thanks for being here and welcome. Tonight, we're actually going to be doing a little color theory. So if you're new to painting or new to color theory, this is the class for you. We're going to be making a 12-step color wheel, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about analogous colors and complementary colors and all the like of that. So if you're wanting to learn a little bit more so you can have better paintings, stick around and I'm going to teach you all about it next. If you're new here, my name is Paige. I'm the chief pixel pusher and paintbrusher over at Gumption, and I love doing these live classes. They're a lot of fun and I hope you enjoy them too. First of all, let's talk about what you're going to need tonight. So as far as supplies go, you're going to need a couple of round items. So I have a roll of tape and a lid from a diffuser because we're going to make a color wheel, so we can use these to help us. Also, you're going to need some paint, but you're only going to need 3 colors of paint: a good red, a blue, and a yellow. And for those of you who care what color they are, I'm going to be using a Hansa yellow and an ultramarine blue, both from QoR, and then I'm going to be using a little paint from Beam Paints. That's this great red. Just three colors, and then we're going to be making 12 colors from those 3. Also, you're going to need a pencil and an eraser. So you'll want to grab those too, and we'll get started here in just a minute. So color theory is pretty important, and I actually took a whole class one semester in graduate school devoted to color theory, and they made us keep this book, and I tell you, I refer to it a lot. And so I'm hoping tonight, as you're painting with me, you will create this color wheel and keep it hanging around in your studio to help guide you. I do think that we'll probably have another class at some point that is a 24-step color wheel. And if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below. If you're here and you're checking in, say hello in the comments. And that should be to the right of this video if you are watching this on a computer. And if you do comment, let me know who you are if you don't have an obvious handle, so I know, because you know me, I want to know you. So, okay. So first and foremost, we're going to want to use our round objects to create our color wheel. And I'm going to switch my camera around here. And I got the palette cam back, so that is a good thing. Let's see if we can get a little closer here. So this is what we are going to be creating. This is really handy, and this is what I would keep in your studio, and as well as refer to it often. So first I'm going to need to draw a circle. So I'm going to use my lid here. Grab a small plate, dinner plate or cup, and you can do that. So these don't have to be perfect. Mine certainly won't be. And then I'm going to use tape here to this tape and try to center it the best that I can. Now, if you are having trouble, one thing, if you want to comment in chat, you have to log in, I think, with your Gmail account in order to do that. So if you're having trouble, that might help you. Okay. And so we're going to have 12 of these compartments for color. So this is what it's going to look like. So I kind of started with my, last time with my ruler going across, but I got a little cockeyed. So I'm just going to start out here. I'm going to use an edge of a piece of paper here. We're going to label these two. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Is that right? Okay, I think I have 12. I might clean this up a little bit and clean up my lines. And while you're... Oh, my computer's going wonky here. So while you're with me, you can kind of draw along. I'm going to kind of clean these up a little. Like I said, these don't have to be perfect. Seriously, I think color theory was one of the most time-intensive classes I had in school. And she was definitely a tough grader. But once you kind of understand a little bit about color theory, it kind of demystifies it, and it can get you excited about painting and planning out paintings. I learned a lot, even though I had gone through college, from that class that I just didn't know. And hopefully I can impart something to you guys tonight that is new information to you too. If you find that there are any issues with sound tonight, let me know in the comments if there are troubles with sound. Okay, so we're about ready to go here. I'm going to label some of these things first as I'm cleaning this up a little. So first we're going to want to number these. And you should wind up with 12. Okay, and then we're going to label the colors. So I'm going to, here I'm going to put 5 is going to be red, 1 is going to be yellow, and I'm just putting the initial there for them. 9 is going to be blue. And then we'll start with those and then we'll label the rest of them, I think. So we're going to need to have a brush here, and I'm going to take you to my palette cam here because we're going to mix these colors, and I'd recommend really mixing quite a bit of paint here. And this paint needs a little bit of water to get it going. Okay. So that's a pretty good red there. Hopefully you can see that. We'll switch right up here. So that's a pretty good intense red. Next, I'm going to put a little water in here. A couple drops. It's intense ultramarine blue. Okay, and then I'm going to clean out my brush really well. And we're going to dip into some of this yellow. And this is a Hansa yellow. Use what you have. You don't have to have these colors, but some form of red, blue, and yellow is preferable. All right. So these colors are primary colors, and I'm going to write over here primary. So since I have yellow on my brush, I am going to go ahead and fill in this yellow area here. So that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to clean out my brush, and next I'm going to put the blue in there. I have a lot of students who ask me what colors make what colors, and this is really Colin Jackson, one of my students and a friend, thought this would be a good class to have as he's starting to paint. And this is a really important class as you are learning to paint, so you understand, you know, you don't need a ton of colors, but you can also understand what makes what. And a lot of you probably learned this in school, but since I still get questions about it in classes that I have, I think it's important to do this. Sometimes people just need a refresher. So now I'm using this red color, and this is a beautiful, it's kind of like the perfect red, I think. It's nice and vibrant. One thing I forgot to note is over here under primary, I'm going to do a little dot for each of these colors. This is really handy at a glance if you need a reminder as what they are. So I'm just going to put 3 dots over here. I'd recommend you do that too. Okay. So those are our primary colors. If you don't have any other colors, you can create so much with just these colors. Let's see, what did I do with that? So next we're going to do our secondary colors, and secondary colors are made up of our primary colors. So you probably learned this in school. So we're going to mix. We're going to go over to the palette here. And I'm going to take some, I think I need to actually mix a little more yellow here. So I'm going to take some of this yellow and put it down here. Then I'm going to dip it in the blue. I'm so sorry. I'm going to sneeze. I know it. Excuse me. It is definitely allergy season. So I'm just trying to mix a really pretty good solid green here. And so blue and yellow make green. So over in over in number 11 here, I am going to paint in this green that I mixed between the yellow and the blue. So that's slot 11. And then I'm going to put a little dot here under secondary. I'm gonna rinse out my brush, and I'm just gonna keep this here because we're gonna use it later. So now I'm going to mix blue and red. Might need a little more real pigment here. So we want to get a nice color out of that. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good purple. On our color chart, we'll actually call this violet, but it's going to go down between blue and red here at number 7. That's a pretty good purple. So you can probably guess where we're going next, because we're going to dip into our yellow and our red, and that makes orange. So I'm going to mix that kind of in this corner, maybe. And I just want a medium orange here. So if you can, do equal parts of your colors, and that looks pretty good in orange. So we will switch back over here, and number 3 will be your orange. And don't forget to put it underneath your secondary colors. So we have 3 primary, 3 secondary colors. And while we are here, I'm going to label our secondary colors. So number 7, the purple, we're going to put a V there for violet. On orange, we're going to put an O here for orange and a G for green over on the green. Perfect. So now that we've done that, I'm going to draw a triangle here pointing to my primary colors. And if you had colored ink here, this would be, you could color coordinate this to tell you what's what. But primary. And then we have our secondary colors. I may not be able to draw a straight line, but you get the idea. So what do we do? What do we have next? Well, between these colors, between a secondary and a primary, you're going to have a tertiary color. And I'm just going to write that down here. So you can write it down too, or just make a note. It's 1 primary plus 1 secondary. Oops, there we go. Okay, so if you saved your paint here, you can mix with these colors. So I'm going to start with my purple down here. What we're going to get between our purple and our red is a red violet. So it's going to be warmer because red is warm. It's going to be a warmer kind of purple. And since I have my purple on my palette here, I just need to add a little more red to it. That might be a little too much red. Might just add a dab of blue in there. So I'm going to paint this in between here. So this might be like a mineral purple. It's kind of a warmer purple in watercolor. And I guess I should mention, this class really you can use any kind of pigment that you want. You can make a color wheel with watercolor or gouache. Or acrylic paint. So we have done our red violet. So I need to mix this up a little more purple here. So if you have a little of your original purple left, you can use it. I'm going to have to make a new purple. So what we're going to be making now is a blue violet here. So between the blue and the purple, we have blue violet. So it's going to be a cooler purple than the warm one that we just did. So I'm adding quite a bit of blue in here. There we go. We'll see how it measures up here. So you can see that's a much cooler purple because we've mixed it with this blue. And it might be worth noting for you, if you're really new to color, that this side of colors are warm and this side are going to be cooler. And you know what I am forgetting to do is put my little dots in here. So don't forget to do that. I'm going to grab my warm purple, or my red violet. That's what I need to be referring to it as. There. Okay, so now we're going to move to between the orange color and the red color. And this is called red orange. I'm just going to put a RO there. Now you might feel like this is kind of basic, but this is great information to do every so often, even if you're familiar with color. It's definitely handy. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to mix an orange because I kind of was running out of pigment here. And really, this looks like a pretty good red-orange already. So you're going to mix your orange plus a little bit of red. And you can see that's a little different than our orange, but not quite the same color as our red. Don't forget to put a little dot over here under tertiary. Okay. So now you can probably guess what's between yellow and orange. It's going to be a yellow orange. So I'm going to label this a YO. That just means it's more yellowy than it is orange or red orange. So I'm going to bring you over to my palette here. You can kind of see. This is a pretty good, this is almost like an Indian yellow color, which is a little warmer. And it's one of my more favored colors. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now, if you have any questions now, go ahead and pop them down below. We're going to keep moving along here. And as you can see, I'm going to go between the yellow and the green. We're going to have this yellow-green color, so I'm going to label it. And then we're going to go over to our palette cam. You can see the green that I already mixed. So if I add a little bit of yellow to this, this is what I think of as like a perfect frog color. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay, so let's go back over here. And there we have a nice yellow-green. Okay, so we're on our last swatch. Actually, I need to put a little dot up here. I'm missing one, aren't I? My yellow-orange. So don't be like me and forget to put your little dots up here. There we go. Okay, so our last one is going to be a blue-green. So I'm going to label this here. Okay, so my good green is gone. So I'm going to mix up a green here. I'm going to switch us over to the palette cam. So I'm taking my Hansa yellow, my ultramarine blue, and it looks like that's a pretty good kind of more cool green there. There we go. It's a nice blue green, if you can see that. Okay. So I'm just going to paint in this blue-green swatch here. Number 10. Really nice blue-green. I'm going to put my little swatch here. And actually, I'm going to color these lines for primary and for secondary. So my primary line, I'm going to make a red line to point to all my primary colors, and I'm using red because it's a primary color. And then I'm going to do that with my secondary colors with a secondary color, and I'm going to use green here. This will help you as you know, if you're a person like me who remembers things by color, you can quickly look at this. All right. So primary colors are secondary colors, green, orange, and violet, and then our tertiary colors that are made up of a primary and secondary color. And look at all these colors that you get when you just use those three primary colors. So we're going to talk a little bit also about complementary colors, analogous colors, and mutes. And I think mutes are my favorite, but I'm going to save them for last. So analogous, if I could spell. Analogous colors are any colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So these would be analogous colors. So if you wanted to do a painting of all analogous colors, you could totally do that. Do that. And it would be a fun test for you to do, actually. Okay. So analogous are next to each other on the color wheel. Complementary colors are opposite each other on the color wheel. So yellow and violet are complementary colors. And what does that mean? It means that they are appealing when you're doing a painting. So if you have trouble with color and you feel like you use too many colors, test yourself to just use a complementary color set. And you can mute them by using the opposite color and mixing it with your color. We'll kind of look at that here in a minute, but I try to kind of keep that in mind sometimes when I am doing paintings, to use complementary colors, especially finished pieces, because they are really pleasing to the eye, and you can really create beautiful colors without having to have the most intense colors. We'll also talk about that in a minute too. So if you use your pencil and spin it around on the color wheel, you will find those complementary colors, and you might notice that there are some team colors that are these colors as well. Okay, so I better write that down here. Complementary with an E. Opposite sides of the color wheel. Okay, so mutes. I've talked about mutes really briefly, and it is using colors that are complementary to create other colors. And that's why I'm going to bring out my big binder here, because this thing it will show you what mutes are. And we can do a little color mixing here. But you can see these are colors that are opposite one another on the color wheel. And by mixing them together, you get various degrees of, this might move into a brown color, but you can see these, it gives you a number of colors that you can use that are not just the most vibrant colors on the color wheel. So here we have a yellow green and this red rose color, or magenta you might say, and you can see by mixing those you kind of come into these brown shades. You can use these to create a brown, or you can mix the primary colors together and you should get a brown there. Here you can see with the blue and the orange, by mixing those two together, we had to do this assignment where you just put a little bit of orange in there and a little bit more and a little bit more, and it kind of turns into this green color. I don't know if you can quite see it. Might help a little bit. But it's sort of this greeny kind of color and moves into this brown color. So mutes are really great to really create harmonious color palettes. Let's see if I have anything else here. So when we talked about analogous colors, these are analogous colors on the color wheel here. They'd be next to each other, and they make a really harmonious painting as well. And let's see. So that is probably good there. I did mess up one of my dots here, but that's okay. So maybe what we can do too is we can mix together and create a mute color. So if you have a bright red and you need to tone it down, you can use the opposite color on the color wheel, which is green, to tone that down. So I'm just gonna paint this here. I'm gonna dip into my green. And it can tone that right down. I challenge you to do an assignment where you do just use complementary colors to create a little painting. Like when I see this, I think, oh, you know what you could do is that's perfect. It's like a strawberry or a tomato. Of course, you think Christmas as well, but it's pretty cool. So now I'm gonna do purple, mix a purple, and use my yellow, these complementary colors. So I'm gonna mix this purple. And then I'm gonna get a little yellow. You can see what happens there. So in watercolor, watercolor functions a lot differently than, say, acrylic paints or even gouache. But there are things called tints, tones, and shades. And I'm going to write these down. So a tint, if you're using acrylic paint, a tint would be taking one of these colors, like yellow, orange, and mixing it with white. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here, because these are important if you're striving to get certain colors that you want. This is going to help you do it. So by using white paint, which we often don't necessarily do in watercolor, but definitely in gouache and acrylics, and you could do it in watercolor too. It's just you might need to use a gouache paint, but you can see these are all the tints of these colors that you can get by using white. And you have less white here obviously and more white moving up, and so these are what are called tints. Tones are what you get when you mix a color with gray. So if you want to tone something down, you can always mix it with gray and you can get a number of really nice colors that are less saturated. You can also tone things down by mixing with the complementary color as well. So that's what tones are. Tones use gray paint, tints use white paint, and you can probably guess what shades are. They use black paint. So you'll be adding a little black to your colors and it will slowly change your colors. So those are some basic things that you should know as you're working with color. It isn't a mystery. It's just time consuming a little bit and definitely worth creating a color wheel This is your 12-step color wheel. We'll discuss a 24-step color wheel later, I think. But I also wanted to share with you, if you are a watercolor artist, oftentimes it's very helpful to create a grid where you mix your colors together so you know what kind of colors you get when you mix your particular palette together. And so that's what this is. We'll also probably do this in a later class, but if you haven't done swatching like this, you really should be doing it if you are painting a lot. It definitely informs you, and you learn what colors make what colors, and what the specific colors you have will do with each other. And so I will have a class on this at a later time. But it just shows you, I mean, there's such a range of color that you can get. Why not be informed about it and know about it, and know how to make that happen? I challenge you to go out and one of my favorite exercises was in my class, we had to get magazines and cut out little cutouts from the magazine and match those colors with our paint. And by doing that, maybe you have 4 or 5 swatches that you do and you match those colors, you will definitely become better at figuring out what makes what color and how to get there. So I challenge you to do that, students, as you are learning about color and playing with color. Definitely, if you haven't made a color wheel, sit down and do it, because you can always refer to this. And I really love my book that I have. I refer to it all the time. So it's definitely worthwhile. Now, if there was something I didn't cover that you have questions on, go ahead and pop those down in chat, and I'll answer those questions. If you want to learn more about painting, go ahead and check out my other videos on this channel. There's quite a few tutorials now on here. And if you'd like to see something else in the future, let me know, because Colin suggested this, and it's definitely a really important class that I'm wanting to do, and I think it's really important to get the basics down where you can blend these colors. So if we don't have any questions, and you like my content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can be in the know whenever I'm doing live classes. And feel free to visit ihavegumption.com if you want to learn more about me and check out other videos too. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for tuning in. I enjoy this every week, and I love seeing my family and friends out there painting with me. I hope you found this useful, and if you do, let me know. If you want to see other videos, pop them down in the comments, and I'll definitely take it into consideration. I hope you learned something new today, and I hope you have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day a little bit early. So take care. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. I do want to say a big thank you to my Patreon subscriber, Colin Jackson. He helps support this channel, and also helps create content, obviously. And so thanks, Colin. I appreciate you being a Patreon patron. So take care, guys, and I will see you next time.